We've now got a good sense of how to go through the color correction workflow to correct individual clips. And while you're almost always going to make the first correction that you apply to any shot be the basic correction that we learned about in the previous movie, I also wanted to show you that that's only the beginning. You can add color correction effects to achieve a certain style. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to go into my 10.3 project, Grading Begin. And this is my project reload sequence. And each and every shot within this sequence has been corrected on an individual level following the workflow that we learned about in the previous movie. But now I'm interested in experimenting with creating a look or style. And when we talk about color correction that is meant for style, it's called color grading. So that's what we'll be doing in this movie. So I'm going to come to this image here and use it as sort of a representative image to experiment with some style. So I'm just going to select it and then zoom in a little bit. And let's get ourselves set up. I'm going to open up my color and effects workspace. And I'll leave our scopes up for reference. I think I'll switch it to our 3 scopes view and change that to RGB Parade waveform. And then if I come over to the inspector, you can see that I've applied a base color correction and a broadcast safe effect. Here is the image before any correction. Here it is with the basic correction. And then here it is with broadcast safe. You can see that it takes out the lightest values in the sky there. So to add a grading effect, I'm just going to drag the color correction effect on top of my clip. And you can see that it's been added in the inspector. And then I'm simply going to go into the color board here and begin making my adjustments. So let's create 2 looks. Let's create a contrasty, cool bleach bypass look. And then let's create a warm, dusty, desaturated look. So for our bleach bypass, I'm going to start with exposure, and I'm going to crunch my blacks and whites, which means that I'm going to raise my highlights and lower my shadows. You can see here in the Luma waveform that I'm peaking way above 100 and way below 0, but don't worry, we'll fix that in a moment. And then I'm going to come into saturation, and let's lower our global saturation and our midtone saturation. And then I'm going to come to color, and I'm going to take my midtones and we'll cool those up. So I'm going to bring up on blue. And this is a pretty standard bleach bypass look. I'm going to go back out to the inspector. And the reason that I'm peaking with my exposure is that my broadcast safe is being applied before correction 2. So I'm just going to drag that down and watch the Luma waveform when I do this. So everything is clipped appropriately now. So here is the before and after on bleach bypass. I'm going to deselect this and let's make another one. So I'm going to add another color correction effect. And then I know I want broadcast safe to be last, so we'll just drag that down right now. And then I'm going to come into my color board. And then again, let's start with exposure. And this time, instead of crunching my blacks and whites, I want to make them flatter. So I'm going to lower my highlights and raise my shadows. And again, I'll come into saturation and we'll bring down global and midtones on that. And then in color, I'm going to take my midtones and warm those up. I'm going to go back out to my inspector. So here is before and after on that look. And again, before and after on our bleach bypass look. And I can keep going in this way. Now, this is not the only clip that I want to stylize in the sequence. I basically want to stylize all of my B-roll. I think I want to leave my interviews alone. So let's zoom to fit, Shift-Z. And I'm going to put all of my B-roll in a compound clip. But before I do, let's actually copy what we just did. So I'm going to select it, press Command-C, and then I'm going to take all of my B-roll. Right here, I have some graphics. I'm not going to grab those. And now I'm going to right-click and choose New Compound Clip or Option G, and I'll just call it Grading B-roll, and OK. And now all of my B-roll is nested together. So I'll select it, come up to Edit, Paste Attributes, and let's turn off any audio. And I don't want color correction 1. I want color correction 2 and 3. This is the bleach bypass and the desaturated warm dusty look. And I'll go ahead and grab my broadcast safe as well. And we'll paste. And right now they're not applied, but I can just come up to my correction 2 and enable that. We don't see it on Sean's interview because we just put it on our B-roll. So let me just skim over our B-roll. And here is our bleach bypass B-roll. Let's change it to correction 3. And here is my warm, dusty, desaturated B-roll. So that's the world of applying multiple color correction effects in Final Cut Pro 10 to achieve color grading. There's lots of possibilities to try out lots of different looks.